So now with Boston College coming in, obviously these two teams played a game last year that was on the edge. And if Boston College doesn't commit a face mask, then they've got a shot to get the ball back. They will get the ball back and then possibly make a few plays, get into field goal range, and pull off a major upset. That didn't happen. And so when you guys talk about Florida State bouncing back, my thought is, okay, this is where we see, because some teams bounce back because they get kicked and they respond the right way. They get mad, they get focused, they get angry, and they tunnel vision that the right way and focus. Other groups may look at and think, yeah, Verse isn't here, Travis isn't here, Fisk isn't, and run down all the names that you just did and thought, and maybe the confidence issue sets in and they think, and they take a confidence hit and it goes the other way. So it can go either way from a psychological standpoint from here on out. But certainly Boston College has been on the field with these guys, and they know, at least from one experience, hey, we can hang. So they've got to come in, you would think, with some level of confidence, even though they're going to be sold by Bill O'Brien. Okay, they're a wounded animal. They're down. They're going to come out fighting. They're at home. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. So you need to be ready for this. But the players know, okay, we've been on the field with these guys. We can hang.
They do. And then, Boston College always brings physicality. I always think of them, even when I was younger, like, they always just brought it on Saturdays and gave Florida State usually a run for their money. But now you got Bill O'Brien over there. You've got a studded running back room there. And of course, we know Trayshawn Ward, Castellanos at quarterback. You got three threats there in the run game, which kind of definitely scares you after what you saw on Saturday from Florida State. But for Florida State's game last year, they just scrape by, man. I mean, if Boston College doesn't just decide to have a penalty every other play, or every penalty that they had, every play, it was just like, okay, just allowing Florida State to stay in that game and stay alive and stay undefeated on the regular season. That was a very, very, very close game. And, I'm early expecting this to be the same way on Monday. I'm interested to see what we have at practice tomorrow and such, but it's not going to be, if you see the same product, just plain and simple. Same product that we saw on Saturday against Georgia Tech is out there on Monday night, you lose the game. It's just plain and simple. There's nothing else that really needs to go into it. They've got some threats. I think Trayshawn Ward is a damn good running back. Thought he's always been. There's a reason why he became the starter coming out from a walk-on. And they're going to see how they utilize him. But they've got another running back too as well. I forget his name, but he's also a stud there too. And like I said, Castellanos was able to shred last year, and he was just a youngster. Now let's see what he's been able to do going into his another year. But yeah, that's got to be the case. And then offensively, there's got to be, the line stays together for whatever you can do. But in the end all be all, I want to see this wide receiver unit and Kyle Morlock be a little bit more utilized with DJ's arm. I think that's just kind of plain and simple, because you have to do that in order to get the run game going. You have to do that to get the run game going. So if you don't, then coordinators aren't going to care about what you're doing and what DJ's doing. They're just going to load up that box and eat you, just like what we saw last weekend.
We're not dominant enough to telegraph things and run into them. We're just not that dominant. Like, it's going to have to get back to, maybe when you have lesser talent, because these guys aren't, they may be the most talented group you've ever had, but they're damn sure not the most experienced, especially together. There's a couple ways you can look at Castellanos. Like, yeah, he was young. Was that even his first start against us? It was definitely a surprise. That was his coming out party. So you can look at it as, okay, now there's tape on him for a good year. Or like you said, he's a year better, and everything to that nature. I don't know, coming off having, 8 months to prepare, I don't know how much having the tape on him will be, because this is, again, week 1. So it'll be kind of a surprise. Boston College is getting to debut all of their stuff, but I do have high hopes. The main things is kind of what we talked about. You hit on Morlock. That was another thing when you're watching the film back. It seemed like on 70% of the plays where there's an incompletion or this or that happened, you're looking at Morlock running free from somebody or about to break open in his zone as he crosses somebody's face. So definitely want to see him get the ball. He was shorthanded in the game the other day. But yeah, Jen already decided. She already picked Boston College. I haven't made a pick yet. We're going to do it Friday. But like, yeah, you just have to see it. If it doesn't happen, we can go to looking back to 1988. We can just go back another decade when FSU started 0-2 and then won out. So there's always going to be something to look for. But yeah, I think it's all there. I want to see 9, 13, and 24 get the bulk of the snaps. What do you think? Because you talked about shrinking that offensive line rotation. It's pretty set now. We've got Byers. They took the Orr away from him. The only Orr left there is going to be the right guard with 69 and 75. Are you leaning one way or the other there? It's kind of tough. I'm gonna say 75, but they've both got their pros and cons. You definitely see why the Orr's still there with those two.
Yeah, I think with Ferguson, his thing with Bama was that limitation on your run game, and it's just then you've got Keandre in there too, which I thought he had a good season for you last year. Nothing crazy, nothing brutally awful. Just things were able to go pretty smoothly for the most part. But I know that's probably going to be another. I guess we look at Oars, and now we're going to be like, oh, that's a shuffling situation. Get ready to see the shuffling on Saturdays. Maybe that's just Atkins telling us this is what we should expect. Which I understand that you want to do that. I think you give a player a game, and you give another player another game if that's going to be the case. And I know that's not easy to do because you're going into another ACC opponent. Blah blah blah, but I want to stick Keandre just because he knows the system and he's been around the longest, obviously. But then you have a lot of upside, maybe with TJ. But if you're going to try to get the run game going, that's what to me is really important. Yeah. But yeah, everything's solidified outside of that. I thought Darius, if we're going to talk some positive, I thought Darius had a good game. I mean, it's crazy just to see the growth from him. I don't want him shuffling anywhere at this rate. I want him at left tackle, and that's where he better not move anywhere at all for the rest of the season. I don't care who gets hurt on the line. He better not go to center. I don't want to see him at guard. I don't want to see him at right tackle. He needs to stay at left tackle. He's going to earn himself some damn good money if he keeps on playing and getting better there at that position, because just let him learn and get better. But I like what I saw from D-Wash, and got to see just some more Kyle Morlock and some passing game after we heard such good things about him in the fall camp. Got to utilize him in the red zone if you can get there. You just utilize him.
At least make him think you're going to throw it to him before you hand it off. Something.
Yeah, and you've got height there. You didn't have that. You had that a ton last year. You don't have that much anymore, and Kyle Morlock brings that. So
yeah, he was a mismatch. I mean, their secondary went over it ad nauseum. I mean, 6 foot. That's not a tiny corner, but I mean, he had lots of height on those guys for sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot to look offensively, defensively. Got to see 7 Marvin Jones Jr. get shake back into things. There's something I saw firsthand and practice in spring. He's better than what we saw on Saturday. A lot of these guys are better. Everybody, offensively, defensively. Joshua Farmer's better than what we saw. Darrell Jackson should be better. Pat Payton isn't going to be Jared Verse, but there's players that are better than what we saw Saturday. And that's my theme of it going into Monday night. They can shut us all up and dominate this game if they want to against Boston College. It isn't going to be easy, but you're at home, you're at night. Take advantage of it and show us who you actually are. And they're phased out by that Ireland game. International games, no more, please. Let's stick to domestic beers only.
I'm with it.
Yeah, well, even though the fan base gets thrown all over the place emotionally by one game, and even College Football Nation obviously overreacts, and that's just the nature of sports fans. Vegas doesn't get swayed by one game. They pretty much they stay with what they know, and they stay with their preseason evaluation. So it takes 2 or 3 of these to really shake them. So they still have Florida State at -17 against BC with a 50.5 over under So what are we looking at? Maybe like 33-17, something like that is what they're looking at. 33-16, 34-17, 34-17, I guess is what the final score they're looking at.
Yeah, I was
Seems
in
like the value.
we had yeah, no, I mean, now we've got Hard Rock here in Tallahassee. I've been not in Tallahassee, but in Florida, so we can do our sports betting legally. I'm not going across seas anymore, so now we can just sit here and just evaluate. Can we make what kind of picks are we making here? And I don't know. A lot of the Bucks beat down here after practice today that were, of course, going. They like to give me crap, but they're going with BC. But it's an interesting. It's way too far of a line. But after what we saw Saturday, but somebody knows something. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm gonna have to make some bets and do our segment tomorrow. But I got to shake up what I said last week. I definitely blew my parlay that I had. It was not good.
Bunch of those got busted last week. There's no doubt. Like, I would never vote against or bet against Florida State. It just, there's too many things out there. Maybe I'll vote for them in certain instances, but I don't even like doing that because I don't want to be thinking about the money when I'm just trying to watch the game. But 17 points, yeah, I'd have no problem telling anybody out there, take that right now. Vegas might be right. They don't overreact. Florida State is liable to bounce back. It is at home. You're going to see these things get reduced. Mike Norvell is a great coach. Like, they're going to figure some things out. We did run into a Georgia Tech team who was damn good on the day. But yeah, 17 points. I mean, that's asking a lot. That's asking you to get it all together and keep it completely throughout the game and keep that lead. That's like, yeah, bet that 17 points. Sorry, FSU fan.
Yeah.
George knows I thought about pulling the trigger on Georgia Tech with an outright upset. I talked about it. I produced a video and said, this is what Georgia Tech needs to do to win this game. And I sounded like a prophet because everything I said came true. I said DJ and a young receiving core, they're not going to be in sync necessarily. Georgia Tech's got an underrated offensive line that's like a top 10 or 15 offensive line in the country. And Jamal Haynes coming back as a 1,000-yard rusher. And they've improved their defensive line, even though they sucked last year trying to stop the run. They should be improved. They got a kicker who hit 17 of 19. And maybe FSU fans, you should be mad at me because I said, don't be surprised if this guy hits a game winner on Saturday. But no, I didn't. I'm not going to say I picked Georgia Tech to win because I did not. I'm on the record picking Florida State, but I did say take those 10.5 points, gobble them up, and take
I thought so too. Yeah, I thought so too. I knew it'd be definitely closer than what Vegas. I mean, look back at the last couple of games over there. That would be in Ireland, usually close. And to me, there's just a lot of question marks for FSU to have to answer for that to happen and for Florida State to win in a really comfortable fashion. So I had actually, I did have 30. I had 30. See, but I sent it. I went, I think it was 34-17. But then the week prior, though, I had, when we were not hearing so great of things with the offense, I did have Ryan Fitzgerald winning by a field goal. So should have just been like, oh, well, that's just things that you hear and things that you think are going to happen on Saturdays and they just don't. But you know what? That's college football, and that's why we love it, and that's why we're on here talking about it, and that's why everybody's hanging out with us.